Hey everybody, sorry, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today we're doing food reviews. We have one to do right now. Just a reminder, we bought Gordon Ramsay entrees and appetizers, all frozen meals. And we decided, because we've seen, and Marco is still actually watching the recent season of Hell's Kitchen, we decided to rank these foods that he has, just to see what they would be like, because we've seen plenty of episodes of almost all of his shows where he throws things in the trash, he throws things outside, throws things against the wall, I think, but whatever, and being mean and expressing sounds of disgust at people's foods, cooking dishes that they've made. And so we said, well, he's so perfect, let's see what his frozen meals and entrees and appetizers are like.
Now, what happened last week is, we were supposed to get the last two appetizers plus an entree of our choice from anybody or anywhere, to see, like, if we just get normal frozen meals, will they be better? Probably. Well, what happened last week was there was a shooting at the Walmart.
Which is just right down the street. I mean, really, it's probably, I don't even know if it's a mile.
It was kind of hilarious because, like...
No, it wasn't hilarious.
No, it was hilarious because the next day was the day before Thanksgiving. And, we had just thought it'd be so easy to go right down the street and get the frozen stuff and get out of there and see some weird people. But no.
You can't buy these at any other place.
Yeah. Well, we don't know yet if you could get them at another one nearby, but what happened was they closed the Walmart because they have to clean up all the stuff on the floor from the shooting that for some reason happened. And so we went all the way to another city, Walmart, to get these frozen appetizers. And we go in there, and there's no appetizers. They had all the entrees, but they had none of his appetizers. And that was like, wah, wah, wah. And so we were like, what do we do? And so, we already had the crab cakes, so we ate those last week. And we like those. We'll talk about them when we rank them. And then this week, what we decided to do is, instead of going into that crazy Walmart where you see...
Or has bad juju.
Indian girls with mustaches and people who commit shootings, we decided to just order for curbside pickup, which, thank God that the Walmart employee wasn't a crazy shooter person, and that we got our food safely and got out of there. So that's what we did 2 days ago, and then we just ate it yesterday. And that was the final one. And thank God we don't have to go to Walmart again unless it's for other things, which will be
Travis Kelce.
Carlo's Bakery.
Or Carlo's Bakery.
Is selling individual cake slices, and we thought we'd try those to see how good they are and review them. So, let's get on to the rankings. You want to do the appetizers first or the entrees?
Why don't we do the appetizers?
Okay.
There's 5 of those.
Well, you go first. What's your number 5 worst?
Well...
Even though they all suck.
Well, I don't think so.
Except for 2 of them.
Yeah. And I think we're actually in agreement about the 2 best. But anyway, I put... You know how Chef Ramsay likes to make beef Wellington, or I should say have others make it. And he makes beef Wellington bites. And those are my worst. So I'm going from the worst to the best.
Those are also my worst.
And
so
the meat was fatty.
Yeah.
And just in totality, they're not up to Chef Gordon's high standards.
They were very greasy, They were gross. They were like something that you get at a really cheap fast food restaurant. They were
probably even get better food there.
They were overly salty. They tasted terrible. Like, I was like, if this is what beef Wellington tastes like, then I'm good. I don't need beef Wellington. Like, if this is what it really tastes like, ew. Tastes terrible.
Okay. And the number 4 for me is the fried chicken bites.
That's my number 4.
And I thought I had like fatty chicken, but the biggest thing, well, that's big for me too, but the sauce that they came with was too spicy. I couldn't eat it. Now, that would be fine for somebody if they could put up with fatty chicken, which I don't know if a lot of people would want to put up with that. That seems to be a common problem in a lot of fast food.
You only ate one bite of one, so if you had eaten more bites, then you could have gotten some chicken without fat.
Well, that could be. But the thing is, though, if you do like that spicy sauce, you do get chicken bites that don't have fat in it. There's not enough of the sauce to make a difference. If you're going to have that, if you're going to eat that, you should be able to have enough sauce that goes, and there's not a lot of them. There's not that many that you couldn't get enough sauce in a packet. I mean, we bought in other frozen foods in the past, we bought fish, and they would have like a tartar sauce or something that you mix in with mayonnaise, like a tartar packet or whatever, and there would always be enough of that. So I don't know why they couldn't make it to where there was enough sauce. So that's my number 4. And
Well,
so Marco's number 4 too.
I felt like these kind of, at first, like, I thought that these would be like boneless wings from Buffalo Wild Wings. Because, like, that's what I was thinking from the packaging. But then when you open it up, you see that these bites are all different sizes. And you have, like, really tiny ones and really huge ones. And they were all crumbling apart. They were terribly greasy and overly salty. The sauce was a little spicy, but the sauce was the best part. I felt like if you took that sauce and got some naked wings from Buffalo Wild Wings, it would be okay, but there really wasn't enough sauce. Like on the picture, it was like they were drenched in sauce, but in reality, there's hardly any sauce that you could get on the chicken. And the chicken itself was mid. It was mediocre. It was fatty. It was falling apart. It just was not good at all. I'd never eat it again. Big waste of money. Safi?
No, I would never get either one of these.
Oh, I know.
Again.
What's number 3, Safi?
My number 3 is 3 cheese stuffed pizza bites.
That's my number 3.
I just put they were very fair, meaning they were just kind of mediocre. It says 3 cheese, but
you don't
they're
taste
lucky
3
to
cheeses.
Have 1 cheese in it.
They're so small. You do not taste the 3 cheeses, though. Like, there's no way that somebody could tell me that they taste 3 distinct cheese flavors. Another issue, Safi forgot to get a drink for some reason. I don't know why she does that every video now. The worst thing about these pizza bites, though, is the fact that they do not taste like pizza at all. They taste like lasagna, like some generic lasagna that you could get. They do not taste like pizza. So, I could just, if I wanted to get a pizza bite, I could get the real, like, pizza bite things you can get at the store, frozen. Or I could get pizza bagels. Or I could get Hot Pockets with pepperoni. But I would never, ever, ever get, again, Gordon's frozen pizza bites. And I would rank them a D- because they're gross. And they are also, like, oily and salty and just, they're terrible. I hated them. Safi, what was your grade for the pizza bites? That's not a grade.
I just gave them a C.
Okay.
And like I said, they're mediocre. So, if you were really desperate and you wanted to, like you had a party or something.
If you're desperate, you get the good kind. You
Well,
get the
that's what I
good
say.
frozen pizza
But if
bites.
you couldn't get that or something, it would be a very last choice.
Like, see, Totino's pizza rolls.
Oh, Totino's.
Those
yeah.
are delicious. I
don't
used to
know.
eat those as a kid. They are delicious. They got little pepperonis inside them, bitches. They are really, really good.
They've been around. Totino's
Pizza
has
bagels.
been around a long time too. So they've had that's the thing with these other places. They've had a lot of experience doing stuff.
Totino's pizza rolls are amazing. I remember how they taste, even though I've only ever had them once, which is when I was watching bootleg Goosebumps episodes, and I was eating those while watching it. So, Safi, what's number 2? Is your number 2 my number 2? Crab cakes?
Crab cakes.
Go ahead, talk
only-
about crab cakes.
I like them a lot. but
I like them too.
The only thing is that get any kind of any type of fish that we ever get, like let's say shrimp especially, and this would be something too. If it's bad in any way, it makes me really sick. And I have gotten food poisoning so many times, so I don't know if I could trust them to be good every time. I was really, really nervous about eating these crab cakes, but we didn't have any problems. I'm not saying we did, because we both liked them, but I just am wary of buying any fish, shrimp, crab, anything like that, because I've just been burned. I mean, a lot.
I really like these crab cakes, though, because they were so much better than I expected, and they were not greasy, they were not overly salty,
They were good.
the crab was real crab. You just needed some sauce. I wish that they had packed in some kind of sauce, because we didn't really have any, so we just used Miracle Whip, and luckily it worked out, but I'd really like a sauce with it. Which
Yeah.
they show sauces on every single one, by the way, but then the only one that they give you sauce for is the fried chicken bites.
It's almost like, well, especially for these things, that the pictures don't match what you get
No.
with food in any way, whether it's cooked or, like before or after it's cooked. It's either a microwavable dish or it's an oven baked dish. And I believe most of these appetizers, weren't they all like oven baked?
Yeah, that was funny too. All the appetizers, you were forced to put them in the oven. You had to get out parchment paper, put the oven on 400 degrees, and then put the appetizers in there and hope that the parchment paper didn't set on fire by the time they were done.
Yeah, because that can only be in the oven for so long, and those higher temperatures, this is my experience with parchment paper, they get easily can turn brown, and then it's going to catch on fire, so you have to be careful. But, so my number 1 is cheese bites. That's what we had last night. That was actually the last appetizer that we bought. And it was good. I would buy it again if I, had a party or something. Basically, it's kind of interesting because instead of buying, I never really buy anything. Like if I had people over, I always, we always make everything. We don't buy any, unless it's like chips or something. But we really don't buy prepared food like that. But if I was desperate, I needed another appetizer, I would get these. The only complaint I would have, they're the right size and they tasted good.
The biggest complaint is that when they came out of the oven, every single cheese bite had exploded.
Which does not match the picture on the box.
The cheese was out of every single one, and I thought that is really, really bizarre, because You'd think that at least a couple would not be exploded, but no, every single one.
Right. So that was kind of strange. And I don't know, because you're following, not every oven is alike, but we are living in a place that has like brand new appliances. They're not, I mean, we've lived in a place that had ancient appliances.
But Safi, we had gotten a new oven at the other house.
Well, but they didn't have the stuff then when we were there. So the thing is, though, Marco was in charge of getting these ready.
And I cooked them 2 minutes before. Like, I cooked them 18 minutes instead of 20, because they said 18 to 20. So, like, I didn't even cook them all the way, like, to the 20-minute mark, and still, every one was exploded.
So, but it didn't present a problem for eating them.
No.
They were still good, and I would recommend them. It's the only thing, basically.
I wouldn't, because I don't think that people should be supporting Gordon doing frozen food, because it's hugely hypocritical, and it's weird. It's really, really queer.
Well, I just know some people just don't cook anything, and they're desperate, and they buy everything.
Well, they can look at a YouTube video and grow up and learn how to cook.
Yeah, right. So, anyway, are we doing the other?
No, we have to talk. I have to talk about it and everything, and you didn't even grade it.
Oh, well, I give it an A.
Oh, shit. I would give it a B.
That's probably more deserved, because they shouldn't have popped open like that, so I'll give it a B+.
They tasted pretty good. The cheese was actually really good. It was white cheddar, and they were beer battered. They weren't that greasy.
No, or salty.
It kind of, and Safi said that it kind of reminded her of like the oil they use at Arby's.
Yeah.
Because at Arby's, every single fried thing always tastes the same because they use the same kind of oil, and it's this weird oil. I didn't really feel like it tasted like Arby's, but I actually liked them, and it was funny because this was one where, with the other ones, I ate like the whole serving sizes, and I was like, ew, 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 I shouldn't be doing this. But for the cheese bites, I only ate one of them, and I was like, oh shit, I should have eaten like the whole serving size because they were more delicious than any of the other appetizers. So, you know, we did keep them. We saved them.
Yeah.
Safi, what is...
Basically, I'll just say too, we have to do the entrees too, but
Yeah.
these are even, the entrees were so bad that these are the best thing, I think, that out of everything we had, including entrees and appetizers, this is probably the best thing.
Well, I would say, though, that 2 of the appetizers, or 3 of them, I think that there are entrees that are better than them. So...
Really? You think so?
Yeah, I think,
Oh, yeah, well...
the risotto is way better than 3 of those, and then the chicken pot pie is, and so...
I'd never buy any of the entrees ever again.
I know. I wouldn't either.
So...
What's your number 8 entree?
Oh, so we're doing entrees with this? Okay. Whoops.
You wanted to.
Okay, I've got to put my glasses back on. My number 8 is the lemon caper chicken.
That's my number 8.
Marco was more disturbed by the appearance, but it did look. I just basically are tasting everything, and it just wasn't good. I actually had chicken that was fatty chicken, and it was the only good thing about it was there was some broccoli in it, but it was really tiny. It's almost like they got micro pieces of broccoli from a broccoli head and put it in there, and those actually that actually was the best part. That's the only part I liked. I mean, it's called lemon caper chicken, but the chicken, it was too lemony, and the broccoli, even though it's tiny pieces, and Marco's showing a picture to me, of the broccoli, and it's, more servable pieces. These were like, I'm talking about like the size of your fingernail, even smaller than like Chinese food. When you get Chinese food and they chop up vegetables, and like we have broccoli in we have broccoli quiche.
It's basically like for all these meals, they're trying to cut up everything so small that they can appeal to every age group. So, even like toothless old people can eat these meals because like everything's chopped up so small. You don't even really have to chew very much. It's really, really bizarre.
That's the only thing that tasted good. I mean, it was broccoli, but it's so small.
The gross sauce was on it, though. So you didn't want it, so I ate it all.
Yeah, it just wasn't, it just was terrible. And the capers, I don't even know why he chose to use capers.
And I never had capers before, and I tried them, and I was like, you know what? These are basically just like really salty peas. Like, you could have put peas on top of here, and I wouldn't have tasted the difference, basically. Like, but peas are better, and I don't even get, like, there's no flavor that comes from the capers at all.
No.
Because they're closed, when you bite into them, they explode.
Yeah.
So, should I say what I thought now?
Go ahead.
I felt like this was the worst one because, number one, the sauce on top of the chicken and everything, it looked like snot. It looked like in the first Harry Potter where you see the dogs and there's snot all over Ron's wand. Is that what it was?
No, that was the... Or it might have been the first one when they have the...
Well, no, like, where was the snot? Like, didn't the snot get all over his wand and everything?
The bathroom. Remember?
Yeah, I don't think it was that, though. I think it was the dogs.
It could have been the dogs and or the trolls. The troll.
It was, like, right before they get to the chess scene, I think. And it looked exactly like that on this chicken. It was so gross. It really wasn't very good. Since the sauce was all over the chicken already, the chicken was soggy, and it was not crispy, and it just was not good. Like, I'd never eat this again, and if I had just eaten the whole thing by myself, I would have been really not fulfilled and satisfied. So, not a good dinner to have.
No.
What's number 7, Safi?
My number 7... I don't think it agrees with you, but it's mushroom risotto.
No, that's not my number 7.
The only reason, the thing is, we know just from personal experience, we've talked about this before, especially for Masterchef, especially this year, this past season, where 2 people made 2 different types of risotto. And the thing about risotto, if you've never cooked it, you have to nurse it. You have to stand there and you have to constantly watch it cook. And it's very particular. So you could easily overcook it, or you could easily undercook it. And because you just have to nurse it every step of the way, and it isn't done in 2 seconds. It takes a long time. Anyway, I thought it was way overdone. And I would suggest, it had a weird flavor, which it was a mushroom risotto, so that weird flavor was probably the mushroom, of course. But it was soggy, and I thought it was gross. And I would suggest, because I don't think there's any other frozen food company that makes risotto. I could be wrong, and I could see people not putting that in a frozen food.
No, there is.
Really? It's just so hard to get it right.
Amy's has a mushroom risotto.
Do they?
DeLalo has one.
I've never heard of any of those.
Scott and John's, Lundberg, Ben's Rice has a
original.
Might be a frozen risotto. So there's quite a few. And there's shitty Gordon.
Well, anyway, I would think it is not something that it is so hard to cook. Because you just have to nurse it. That just to put it in a frozen food, and how many, I have no idea. It depends on the company. How many boxes are they putting together at a time to send out to the stores? This is going to Walmart. There's a lot of Walmarts around the country. So, I just wouldn't recommend it. But I didn't care for it. It's my second worst. It's number 7. So what about you, Marco?
My number 7 is easily the fish and chips. I was so disappointed with this because Chef Gordon is British. He should know how to make fish and chips. And if this is how he makes fish and chips, then he's not a real chef, because this fish and chips was so awful. It's one of the worst things I've ever eaten. The fish itself was generic, and it was falling apart. There were pieces where the breading just completely fell off of it. They were extremely greasy. They were overly salty. There was nothing about these, they were basically like little fish nuggets, too. It's not what you think of when you think of fish and chips. And then they had these fries, and they were basically like if you cooked homemade fries at home, where you put potato slices in the oven, which I've done quite a few times. But there was no seasoning on those fries. That's what was funny. There was all this overly salted stuff on the fish and chip and on the fish, but then there was none on the chips. And so that is my number 7. And Safi once again has to get another drink because she didn't, she wasn't thinking with her brain. So she didn't do the right thing and get a fresh water, and we have to wait for that.
Okay, well, my next one, which would be number 6,
Yeah.
is shepherd's pie.
Shepherd's pie.
Which I picked.
Yeah, that was the first meal that you picked, which was pretty hilarious.
Very disappointing.
That was not shepherd's pie, that's for sure.
Now, when I see, the thing is about that one, I've made that. So, I have my own standards, my own personal standards to follow.
There was no cheese. There was no cheese on top of this shepherd's pie.
And I thought the vegetables were very sparse. And let's see what else I put. The meat was crappy. It was fatty. Again.
No, it wasn't.
I thought it was. And
this was ground beef, Safi.
I know that there's still fat in ground beef.
But
it just wasn't. It wasn't very good at all. I was really disappointed, and I don't think it had much flavor at all either. So, and what it is, it's like a ground beef sauce with it depends on what you want to do with the vegetables in it. I think it could be peas and carrots, not sure. And then on the top is mashed potatoes, and then there's like cheese, like cheddar cheese.
There's no cheese on this, though.
No, and it's and then you put it in the oven. So the top is kind of like a crusty, soft topping, and the bottom is like a gravy meat sauce. And it just wasn't. It was our first meal. We did 2 entrees at a time, and what we would do is we'd each take a half of the entree so we could both have a decent taste of each one.
And that's another thing with the fish and chips and the shepherd's pie is these were really small portions, and even if we had eaten the full meals, we would not have been satisfied as having a dinner.
No, and it isn't so, and financially, it's not worth it either. You could go down to a fast food place and probably get a burger and fries for cheaper and be more satisfied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my number 6 is the beef with red wine sauce. And, this is another thing where we just had this year. We had, it's beef with potatoes and carrots and stuff like that. And this was just really, really mediocre. Like, the red wine sauce was so heavy and thick, and it did not taste good at all because it just tasted like wine. And the beef was extremely fatty. It was gross. The potatoes were gross. The carrots were gross. Everything was gross. Like, this was basically like eating a dog's dinner. Like, that's what I would call this. I would say
Gross.
the beef with potatoes is a dog's dinner. Because that's something Gordon would say, so...
Yeah, he would.
Too bad, shitty Gordon. Sellout. What's your number 5, Safi, since I don't know why...
I changed my mind about this, and
Oh, okay.
I made my number 5 to be the 4-cheese macaroni.
Ew.
And that was because it was really gross. I mean, to me, this is almost inexcusable because you can get other frozen meals, other companies that make macaroni and cheese, and it's pretty good. And this was, it was in clumps, it was hard in places, and it was just gross. And it was like, I think I took a bite or two, and, I don't like hard parts of the macaroni and cheese. I like it to be all soft.
And by the way, that shows that they did not cook them right when they originally made the mac and cheese.
Whatever, but it was really grotesque. And it has kind of, on the top, it has like what would you want to call, like a breadcrumb seasoning.
Ew.
Mixed in there. And it's almost like they had other frozen food, like, let's say on all these chicken bites, the breadcrumb outer part of these things were like crumbled onto this to make the topping, and it was just it's the worst macaroni and cheese meal ever. So what about you? What's your 5?
My number 5 is the lasagna, because I don't think that this is lasagna at all. It doesn't taste anything like lasagna. The cheese inside is really, really bland and doesn't taste like anything. It's just so generic, like just generic Italian flavors. You could easily get a Stouffer's lasagna. It would taste 1,000,000 times better than this. And it's not even a real lasagna because it's just one noodle that's folded up with the stuff in it. And so, yeah, like, fuck this meal. It's not lasagna. What's your number 4, Safi?
My number 4 is the chicken pot pie, which I was really disappointed. You can get, again, other frozen foods. There's at least 3 I can think of.
Banquet, Marie Callender, Stouffer's.
Yeah, where they don't seem to have any trouble with theirs.
Well, sometimes they do. They'll have these pieces of meat.
The meat's
and
always a problem.
And they're chewy, and that will really turn me off because I'll be like, oh, I don't want to eat this ever again.
Another problem with it is I make chicken pot pie.
Yeah.
Now, I've made different versions of the crust, which is an issue, which I don't have trouble making crust at all. It's just for a chicken pot pie, I've had trouble with making a 2 crust, like a crust on the bottom, like a regular pie. And then you would have the filling with the sauce, and then you put the top crust on. And I've had trouble with the moisture in the top crust. Compared to other ones I've seen, where the top crust wasn't affected at all. So I've never been able to get that. But I make different types of crust. So I'll make you have filling, and then you make like a biscuit crust for the top, and it's just for the top. It seals the top. So anyway, it's just because I've had so much experience making it. I did put it up here because one thing I did like about it was they had a really interesting crust for the top. It was like what I make with the biscuit crust, where they just have a top crust on it and the filling is underneath. But again, the problem with it is there's hard pieces of meat, hardly any vegetables at all. And for chicken pot pie, now unlike shepherd's pie, there are supposed to be carrots and maybe celery, onions, whatever. Peas, and they're just, you could count the number of vegetables on your hand for a serving. That's ridiculous. And they're tiny pieces, so could have been other pieces, but they disintegrated because they're cut so small.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but that's my
My number 4 is the mac and cheese. This is supposed to be 4 cheeses, and I mixed it all together with the breadcrumbs and everything, and it just, this was like really another generic one where I was like, there's nothing special tasting about this mac and cheese. I feel like, I just had Annie's mac and cheese earlier this week. I'd much rather have Annie's 4-cheese mac and cheese than have Gordon Ramsay's bullshit mac and cheese from the Walmart. Like even yakisoba, which isn't technically mac and cheese, I'd rather have that original yakisoba packaged noodles much better than this, and has flavor. It has actual flavor. This mac and cheese, the only flavor came from I think one of the cheeses, and it just wasn't enough to make a good mac and cheese, and the noodles were just terrible mac and cheese. And Safi, she only ate 1 bite of it, and I'm really surprised that she put the beef high on the list, because she only ate 1 little bite of the beef and she threw it away. She was so negative against the beef that it's really kind of dishonest that she put it as high as she did on the list.
Well, that was my number 3.
Okay.
Slow roasted beef in a red wine sauce.
Liar.
I'm not sure. Well, the problem with it was there was fatty pieces of beef,
Yeah.
and I didn't like that.
I could see the fat, and I was like, "Have fun, Safi."
The thing is about any of these entrees, I would never buy them again.
Yeah.
I don't like any of them. And unlike the appetizers, I struggled with even ranking them because they're all so bad. So I don't know why I put this above the others. I guess it was a choice between eating fatty beef and hard pieces of macaroni and cheese. I mean, it's just ew. And chicken pot pie with of vegetables that you could count on one hand in a serving, which is ridiculous. What about you? What's your 3?
My number 3 is the shepherd's pie, and it's because there was one element of the shepherd's pie that was really good, which Safi didn't even mention, and that is the mashed potato. The mashed potato was creamy and delicious, and it was actually really good, and it tastes better than the mashed potatoes that we eat. But the portion size of this meal was for a baby or something. I was like, this is not what an adult man or woman would want to have for a dinner. You'd have to buy 5 of them to have a good portion size, or 3 of them. And the beef was all clumped up, so they didn't grind up the beef enough, which we do that a lot, where we make sure that the beef is chopped up to where it's edible, instead of just being in chunks like it's meatballs or something. And then also the vegetables are so small that they're hardly even there. The gravy is okay, but this is just really bad. Safi, what's your number 2?
Okay. I'm not feeling very well. So, anyway, my number 2 is the fish and chips.
Ew!
Now, I liked the fish. It wasn't overwhelmingly wonderful, but I liked it okay. I thought the pieces were fine. It was the potatoes, the chips, so to speak, that were terrible. They're like home fries, and they weren't cooked. They were kind of partially raw. So the only good thing about it was the fish, and Marco didn't like that. So, I mean,
No.
like I'm saying, that these meals, I wouldn't ever get them again for anything. I'd rather just have peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So, but anyway, I've been to England, and I've eaten the fish and chips, and the chips were, at least where we went, were French fries, and people ate them with a fork, which was weird to me, but I mean, that's just what they do. And the fish was had a different, now this could vary from place to place, depending on who's cooking them, but it had a harder batter, like fried chicken. And this was more of a soft breading type batter. It was hardly there at all, but it was okay. And just real quickly, my number 1, because I'm having a problem here, was I like the lasagna.
Oh!
It very little, because it was just one noodle. It was folded over, and it had filling in it.
Safi's gonna go throw up now.
I'll be
So,
right back.
number 2. That's very appropriate for Safi. Number 2, for me, is the chicken pot pie. I actually, you know what? The crust was amazing. It was probably the best crust on a chicken pot pie I've ever had. It was flaky and crispy and delicious. The chicken was good. The vegetables were cut too small, but they did taste good for the most part. The biggest problem with this dish, though, was the fact that it was too salty. This was so salty that I felt like I'm so glad that I didn't eat this in the spring when I was having blood pressure problems, because this would have destroyed me. It would have made me so sick, and I would have been like from eating this chicken pot pie. But I would say that, like, if it was a lot less salty, I would easily want to get this more than anything else on this list, but I would still never get it again. You know, I'd rather just have homemade chicken pot pie, or from a good frozen company, not from Chef Gordon, who's just selling out and trying to earn an extra buck so that he can pay for another child that he'll have someday. Which you guys saw, he had a new child recently, so that's probably why he wanted to do these frozen meals, is so he could make an extra buck. And it's like, you know, fuck that. Number 1 for me was the mushroom risotto, which there were some huge problems with this. Like, number 1, it was overcooked, and that is inexcusable, because if Chef Gordon had overcooked risotto presented to him, he would throw a whiny bitch tantrum. He would yell and scream, throw the risotto in the trash, berate the chef who cooked it. But for some reason, it's acceptable that he packages up overcooked risotto for us to eat. And the thing is, though, is that it had a decent flavor, because this was the least salty meal out of all the meals on the list, the risotto. It did not have, like, any salt hardly at all. So I really felt like just because of that alone, I had to put it at number 1. And Safi just got back from her sabbatical. Safi?
Well, I just want to say about the meals in general, they're too salty. And,
yeah. Gordon has a salt addiction.
He does have, and I've talked about this before. He does a advertising for this set of pans, cookware.
Whoops.
And he made cheeseburgers. And every layer of the cheeseburgers, the lettuce, the cheese, the burger, everything had a layer of salt on both sides. I didn't realize this, he uses a lot of salt.
Yeah.
And that's not frozen food. That was a fresh cheeseburger with cheese and lettuce, pickle, he had mayo, all the stuff, and each bun, everything had salt. So I don't know if it's really, they say for frozen foods, they'll say there's a lot of salt in them, they have a huge salt content, and I don't know if it's an accident, it's just because it's frozen food, or it's because he has
because of him. It's because of him.
Yeah, preference for salt.
And in general, I calculated, we basically paid like $80+ for all these frozen meals combined. And I just have to say, wow, what a waste of money. Like, we could have gotten like 5 or so meals from McDonald's for that amount of money and been a lot happier.
Maybe even gotten something from Goldbelly's. Like a special meal that's we could have cooked. That would have been good. Or it would have already been cooked and we would have eaten it. It would have been...
Well, we could have
heated it up.
We could have actually gotten Shakespeare's. They have frozen pizza, and it costs $50 for 3 or 4 pizzas. I think, was it 4?
It was 3.
It was 3. But the problem is that shipping costs $30. So in total, it is $80+ to get good pizza.
And those were they're frozen pizzas, so I mean those are really good.
Yeah, they're better than anything Gordon ever made.
This is Shakespeare's Pizza from Columbia, Missouri. So I went to school there. That's where the University of Missouri is, and that's how I know about it. And so somebody went there recently and picked up frozen. This is the first time they've been doing this. Frozen Shakespeare's Pizza. You could just get them in the grocery store there. They got 3 of them, brought them back for us, and we had 3 weeks of great Shakespeare's Pizza.
Good pizza.
And it was frozen.
For once.
Better than anything here, which is the regular brands that you're familiar with and that are advertised on TV. So anyway, overall, it was a lot of money for not very much satisfaction. So, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers because we do lots of different things. So, goodbye.
Bye.